vence o clutch. Vence a 11, 00Nation 2-0 na série.
É onde já vale tudo.
E é 2 contra 2, aparece o Jonathan da passo, cobrado pelo Xande. Eu sou mais você, Xande. Eu sou mais você no duelo anti-Jets. A vantagem é norte-americana, o Xande não sabe.
Não tem essa de fase de grupo, que não pode perder. Levar para os playoffs confiança, cabeça sempre erguida e resiliência.
Vamos a ganarlo todo, ya sabemos lo que estamos haciendo mal y solo queda que lo apliquemos.
Levou o Dark, o Virt pega 3 no round, Mitted! Leva mais 2, que round do Mitted!
Like personally, I think these teams are not on our level.
El sueño de todos es estar acá. Hay mucha gente que no tiene este privilegio.
Rubicoid, jogador tá de costas para ele se reposicionar. Rubicoid eliminado. Já vem então pro desarme a equipe da 9Z.
I think I'm always going to go into any game wanting to win and believing that we will win and we're the better team.
E o EU fica marcando na curta distância, leva o primeiro Darker. Ele garante a sua primeira vitória aqui no Ascension.
I think if they beat us, it's going to be an upset, of course.
No hay tiempo para lamentar.
Hello, Valorant fans, and welcome to VCT Ascension Americas, where the competition is just ramping up. Group stage is done, and ahead of us, we have our bracket. We have the intense competition going on, and I cannot wait to get into it. I'm Sierra Dawn, and joining me today, we have Emily, we have Bach, we have the best analysts here. Bach, how are you doing? How is this bracket doing?
I mean, obviously, it's kind of how we would expect it to be. The teams all coming through from the group stages. We do see the Union and the Guard getting that first round bye as a result of their performance in the group stages. I think there was a lot of people that maybe would have anticipated maybe that M80 would be up in that upper match as well. But we knew coming into this, M80 had limited LAN experience as a roster, and you could see some of that in their opening series. That's why they find themselves in a quarterfinals match. But if we're being honest, you know, I think everything else pretty much shapes up exactly as we would have expected it to.
I mean, the matches have definitely been fun going into this. So, Emily, I really enjoyed seeing how things are playing out and seeing everyone come together fighting for this spot.
Yeah, it was fun watching all of the group stages matches. Like Bach was saying, it's kind of a good warm-up for teams that haven't been playing on LAN. Like M80 is a really good example. So I think today, going into these matches, we're going to see a whole different set of teams because all of them are warmed up, they're taunting each other, they're feeling it, and they're ready to start the day off.
And to start our day off, we're going to be focusing on Fusion going up against 00Nation, as teams, of course, are looking to try and make that upper bracket run, not even have to worry about hitting that double elimination portion, get into that bottom bracket at all. And let's start talking about 00Nation here first, Bach.
Yeah, I mean, this is a team that I think came into the group stages and surprised a lot of people with the way they played in their opening series. They obviously prepared. They were very strong in the counter-stratting department. I would even argue that in their second game, they looked good as well, even though they didn't find the win, at least in the opening map. They put up numbers that we wouldn't have anticipated, ultimately falling just a little bit short in that matchup against the Guard. But realistically, 00Nation is a very significant threat here in the bracket and one that should not be taken lightly.
Yeah, 00Nation is definitely very strategical, I would say. They heavily rely on their strategies, whereas Fusion, they're really good with their utility. They love doing these trap plays. Even on post plants, they make it nearly impossible for teams to defuse the spike. This is the type of stuff that I want to see from Fusion because that's what really worked out for them.
Well, I want to go back to what Bach was saying with 00Nation, the fact they can pose a threat. And I want to start talking about a couple of the players on the squad that could be doing so, because we have gotten to see some great pop-off moments.
Yeah, I mean, Xand and Xion are definitely two of the players to keep your eye on. This is just a few small clips of some 4Ks they had in the series just yesterday against the Guard, both of them taking place on Bind. By the way, Xand had 2 more 4Ks just on that map alone, kind of illustrating the point that these guys are incredibly capable. It's just maybe not always working out. This round in particular, yeah, it's a 4K, but they ended up losing the round. They just didn't quite get the kills in time, as time does end up expiring. But it's indicative of the fact that the team has the mechanics to best a team on par of the Guard, M80, any of the top teams that are coming into this event.
That clip that we just saw from Xion, I really liked it in particular because he just full-on peeked on short into 4 different people and he got away with the 4 picks. And I think that type of confidence is what we're going to be needing to see from Xion. 216 ACS from him, and KD is 106, and that's really good for a Sky player because, you know, we're not always in positions as support players to get the opening picks. We're usually there to set up our opponents, but he did a really good job on that bind that we just saw.
And Xiang, too, coming into this event was maybe a player who kind of slid into the background with this roster. I think a lot of people were mostly looking at Xand on the other side, who's the one that's likely to put up the big numbers, or even BZN or Artsine, who have been more statistical anomalies, like a little bit stronger in the consistent performances for what they bring to the table. BZN also maybe playing a little bit of a different role, allowing him to do that, whereas Xion has been a support player with the Sky and definitely lends that ability to his teammates. He's more of a setup man coming into this event, but here we've seen him shine at an individual level that he hasn't yet, which bodes well for them moving forward through the bracket.
And it'll be exciting to see how they shine going on today, as of course, the first match they're going to be facing is going up against Fusion. Let's talk a little bit about this team. Emily, for one, I just think they're really unique and fun, honestly. They've been a lot of fun to watch.
Yeah, I mean, we have to remember they're a team that absolutely dominated LATAM North. They did incredibly well there. But watching them in groups, they're struggling a little bit to find their footing. But I think, again, like I was mentioning earlier, now that they're settled in a little bit, that they're going to be improving, they need to focus on the things that did work for them when it did. This team in particular, I thought were Eco Warriors. They were really good on their thrifty rounds. They won multiple of them. So what worked for them on that? I noticed that they were isolating the one guy that they found that was alone, picking up on those tendencies. Or when they had the lesser valued of weapons, they were full on forcing getting to the site. This is the type of things that I want to see from them today.
For me, what's interesting about this Fusion team is that when they're on an eco, they play tight as a unit. A lot of really good utility. The timing is great. They're playing with one another. But then when they break apart and play more of like a default style, it's really disconnected, super disjointed. And we saw that actually yesterday and the day before when they were playing in their matches. You can take a look at the way they play in this situation. So this is a 3-2 split. This is when they had this weird composition they were playing on Pearl. They went with a Neon. and a Yoru, which is like, okay, that's cool, I guess.
Right.
But then they 3-2 split. They send 3 to B, or 3 to A, 2 to B. What makes things weird is they lose the 2 players top B, and then Verdi sort of just dives in, gets fault lined by his own teammate. They've got a paranoia they're holding on to, but they decide not to use it. Art is completely wide open, and Verdi just sort of dive bomb sight. Had there been a player Art, Verdi dies and has 0 impact in this play because he's there alone, and there's nothing holding that position of the map down. It's just... Obviously, there's reads and information they've gathered to make them believe there's no one there. This is when they play as a team. In the post plant, the 2v2, you finally see them kind of like lock down and set up. The post plant looks pretty good, but they really do rely on those early picks, and you can see it here. When they are down numbers, it is rough. I mean, their 4v5 win rate is 3 out of 28 rounds. Their 3v5 is 1 out of 16. Obviously, 2v5 and 1v5, most teams aren't winning those. It's uncommon that you would see a team consistently converting in those, but their position that they find themselves in when they lose that opening pick is brutal. They are having a hard time converting, and they are losing some of those early battles early. They have won 27 rounds, and they have 31 first bloods. I know you can't directly correlate one to the other, but there is at least somewhat of a connection when you see these numbers.
And this is what I was kind of talking about earlier, is that they do really well when they have a lot of their utility. They rely on that very heavily, as you can see. And you were mentioning in the clips of their post plants. Well, they have util on the post plants on the clips that we saw on day 1. So they struggle against teams whenever they go back and forth and bait out the utility that they're not able to utilize. So I think for them, like you were saying, they do really well when they flood full force ahead as a unit and as a team.
And then I want to ask then, since we got to see them, we know then, Emily, how well they can play. We know the strength of the team, and then in the group stage that there is a little bit of it missing. Do we think now, having that experience in the group stage, getting kind of a little bit of the dust off of the shoulder, going on forward, we can start to see some more sparks coming out from this team?
Yeah, certainly. I think as a player myself, I would look at it in the sense of they were dominating in all of their splits and even in their playoff matches. But when they came here, they weren't doing so hot. So now they have mistakes that they can go back and watch. You don't have that when you're winning over and over, right? So now that they probably studied of what wasn't working and why, because you have to keep in mind different regions have different play styles. So that's might be something in particular that they're adjusting to. So now that they have all of this, all these VODs that they can go back and watch, I think they're going to be a lot better today.
I also think that I really like what they did the other day with the Neon Yoru. I like the fact that they gambled and went with a non-standard composition, because they are a team that comes in as an unknown variable. They know that there isn't as much tape with them. They know that they've had significant time off, so why not roll the dice? Why not go for it? Apparently I was muted in Discord. That's my fault.
I feel like everyone at home got to have a really fantastic explanation.
Yeah, basically I was talking about, everything I said was brilliant. It was so much, I threw like a billion stats, there was numbers flying around. It was so smart.
You know what? I believe you, Baka. But you know what? Going on forward, I feel like we got a match ahead. And even if we didn't get to hear from you, I think that it's time to hear from our players. Let's get to that.
Nesse campeonato não tem mais bobo, todo mundo é bom, todo mundo sabe jogar. Acredito que vai ser um jogo difícil, pegado, eles sabem o que fazem no mapa, eles têm muita mira também. Então a gente tem que só manter o nosso, conseguir fazer o nosso, conseguir se concentrar, não ficar nervoso, não deixar o nervosismo abalar um pouco, que pode ser que a gente consiga fazer um jogo muito tranquilo.
Pues ellos pienso que es el equipo más débil. Siento que les podemos ganar muy fácil y con un buen análisis les vamos a ganar. Honestamente, la única, para que nos haga un counter, es que no estemos focus y que no estemos hablando todo lo que tenemos que hablar. O sea, si jugamos como Fusion, vamos a ganar.
Eu acho que o que me dá essa confiança é isso, saber que a gente fez tudo que a gente poderia fazer e agora é só conseguir colocar dentro do servidor.
La fase de playoffs vamos a hemos añadido todo, ya sabemos lo que estamos haciendo mal y solo queda que lo apliquemos.
A 00 vai vir para os playoffs bastante forte, com a cabeça erguida no lugar, centrado e sabendo que a gente tem nosso potencial para ganhar e garantir essa vaga.
A lot of confidence from both of our teams headed into today. And your own sentiments echoed in that from Fusion. The mistakes that practiced on, going to be going on forward stronger. So something that's recognized. So I'm excited to see how that'll be put into practice.
Yeah, and listening to them talk in that interview, they were talking about how they wanted to play their own game, essentially. And their mindset was that they need to play like it's practice and not think about the environment that they're in. And I think that's a really good mindset because, you know, we all know about the one of where you play to win, not playing to lose. But it's also important to play how you do every day and not playing in a new setting, if that makes sense. So I think that both teams are feeling confident going into this match from watching that interview, and hopefully we're going to be able to see it.
For Fusion, I really want to see them keep that aggressive pace. I enjoyed watching them play a really aggressive, super fast style of play. I just want to see them do it together. I want to see them move as a unit, a little bit more connected, like have the flashes in play when your duelist dives in. It just felt like they were always kind of like improvising the take. It never really felt like it was properly planned until they hit an eco round. In an eco round, you're like, okay, I really like what they're going for here. They're going to pop the ult under sight. They're going to flash through. They're going to dive into the site. They have everything set up the way that it's supposed to be. They even have post-plant mollies. They've got everything right. But then they go into a buy round and it's like, jazz. There's like they have this like whole improv thing, and it's not working in those situations. It really lands on the individuals in those moments, and it's not to say that those individuals can't shine. It's just tough.
Yeah, it's like when there's nothing to lose in those eco rounds, then it's like, oh, okay, and they just go out there with no care in the world, showing caution to the wind, and it works out for them because then they're going in there with the confidence and not holding back. They're not afraid of losing anything. But then the second that there is something to lose, once they have those weapons, once, you know, they got their full buys and everything, it's like that goes out the window. So that'll be really interesting if we could get that version of, if we can get eco round Fusion in the full buy scenario.
Yeah, like Bob was saying too, I mean, they need to get more trades for each other, right? We weren't seeing the trade for trades, and that's about positioning. They have to be going in as a force. They're doing a really good job on setting up their duelists of getting the picks that's needed, but we just need trades happening to just make the opponents feel uncomfortable.
And now it's time to start looking at our players as they're getting ready for this match ahead of them, Bach. This is a big one too. This is the first match going on in the bracket and a chance to really set the pace right.
Yeah, I'm digging the armpit cam too, trying to get into the huddle, make us feel like we're a part of this one. No smell-o-vision needed. You know, Fusion really, they're the ones that I need to see step up. I feel like 00Nation already performed quite well during the group stages. Yes, they walk away with the loss to the Guard, but it was a very close map 1. Map 2 obviously could have been better, and I'm sure they recognize that. Their series against 9Z, they were well prepared. That's another LATAM team. I think that looking at Fusion's group stages, it was a little bit more chaotic. They had the loss to M80, and then they had the loss to Union. But at the same point in time, I do think it's fair to put an asterisk on the fact that M80 is the #1 team coming in from NA. Union is the #1 team coming in from Brazil, and it's not like they're #1 by a small margin. They are #1 by miles. The Union coming into this event was 10-0. They had not lost from Split 2 onward until Ascension, and they still have not lost. They are currently 12-0. M80 on a similar level of a tear, so it's very difficult to fault Fusion for the way that things went. Yes, there are things they could have done better, and arguably some mistakes that shouldn't have been made when you're playing at this level of play, but it's not like they were playing against soft opponents.
I feel like this could be a good chance too to start talking about the other members and focus in on 00Nation and these other players that we haven't necessarily gotten to highlight quite as much headed into this match.
Yeah, Yeah, a lot of people were underestimating 00Nation going into Ascension League, and they've shown that they've got what it takes. They've won 1BO3, they've lost another, and that's okay because that was only groups, so again, they can fix up any mistakes that they have. But in terms of their players that they have, I mean, each one is a very skilled individually, to say the least, and we were highlighting the supportive players. I mean, again, Xion did a really good job on setting up his teammates. He had 20 assists in 1BO3, and that's just one example. Here we have Fusion on the screen, right? And Fusion, again, filled with multiple and talented players. Darker is someone that really stood out for me the other day when we were watching Darker play on the Breach and Omen. And even Meathead was, as a second entry, did a really good job. Darker got multiple 3Ks when we were watching him in groups, and I'm thinking he's going to do a really good job today too.
My eyes are on Verdi because Verdi was the player a lot of people said to watch out for. Even the team said it in the video pieces. They said, you know, you got to watch out for Verdi. He's incredibly explosive. He's a player that's likely to catch you off guard with his timing, and he tried to do that the other day. But that's a risk reward that is difficult to balance. He's, you know, currently sitting at a 0.28 FDPR. We need to see him find more success in the early fights.
Well, it's time to figure out in our first match of the day, our map picks and bans, where we're going to be heading off. And it's going to be Ascent, picked up by Fusion here, Em.
I'm looking at the maps for them. Okay, yeah, Ascent. That's a good pick, because looking at my stats that I have for 00Nation, they have, from Split 2 to now, a 0% win rate on Ascent, losing 3 maps in a row. So that's a really good pick. Oh, wait, that's from 00Nation. Okay, never mind. I'm sorry.
Keeping us on our toes.
Something. Yeah. Fracture, though, a second map. I watched Fusion's Fracture when they were playing the other day, and again, that's when they shined, when they were doing those post-plant mollies that we were talking about pregame. Whenever they had a lot of util on the spike and making it incredibly impossible to be diffused, that's when they were able to close out the rounds.
This map pool plays really nicely to Fusion, in my opinion. You look at Ascent as the first map. Again, it's not typically a map that's been really good for 00Nation. They picked it and then one time banned it 4 times in Split 2. They have a 0% win rate, 29%, 39% on the defense. That was coming into this event. On the flip side, it's not really the most common map for Fusion, but obviously they're playing the weakness of 00Nation as opposed to the strength of their own map pick. Fusion being map 2 is interesting. Both teams do have a pretty decent strength on it, but Fusion played it a ton. They've played it 7 times since Split 2. Coming into this event, they were 5-2, a 71% win rate. It was one of their stronger maps, definitely one of their favorite maps. So I look at those first 2 maps and I'm like, okay, this is actually looking much more winnable for Fusion than maybe I would have expected.
Ooh, what I wasn't expecting. I know Fusion likes to keep it interesting, keep it cheeky, but this Neon coming out to start things off on Ascent, that'll be so much fun. Verdi's going to be picking this one up. I cannot wait for this, Elite.
This is very odd. I'm sorry, it's very, very odd. Definitely not expecting that. And they also have a Sage, so very defense-sided comp with the Sage. Did we see what side they're starting on? I'm not quite sure. But either way, that's exciting to see the Neon played. Can't wait to see that.
I can't wait. I can't wait to hear what our casters have to say about this. Getting into our match. So let's head over to them and get this rolling.
Thanks so much, Desk. Yeah, hey, this is a really exciting one. I mean, for both these two teams, we have not really seen them play it throughout the group stage till this point. It's been actually a couple of months since Fusion's had a chance to play Ascent here, Dust. So, I mean, kind of reactions over the draft is, obviously things are different than the last time these two teams had a chance to play up on the map.
Yeah, I mean, you make a really good point there. It's also a good point worth noting that while 00Nation has lost this map all 3 times they've played it, it's always been to the same opponent, the Union, the best team in Brazil. So it's not like they've been able to stretch their wings against, you know, a variety of opposition, as we have a very quick pistol round, which I'm not surprised to see, shit, as both these teams are known for their very high-octane playstyle. We'll talk more about it, of course, throughout the course of the series on what to expect, but as you can see, it's fireworks right out of the gate, as Fusion will get the spike down and have a 4-on-3 post plan here at B.
Yeah, Xian's going to work to try to clear out B main, while the rest of the 2 defenders through mid are going to have to kind of do their work with Ghosts. Good news is for 00Nation, there is no one at B main, so you can at least get a 3v4 on towards site where Meated is already low, and he's already taken down. Nice shot from Stan. Now over the top of this, who tries to dash in, but Theory, Darker already there to meet them, and how about 4 kills in the opening pistol for Darker? A very rare pistol win for Fusion.
Yeah, pistols have been an issue for them, while ecos have actually been a strength, so it's kind of odd, actually, when you think of it that way. But yeah, Fusion coming into this, as you said, haven't played this map competitively in a couple of months. Definitely completely changed up their composition, bringing the Neon for Jet and the Brimstone for Omen is kind of some of the key highlights of what has pivoted for them, whereas opposed to 00Nation have kept the same comp that they have, you know, been playing all 3 times they played this map against the Union, still feeling confident in despite, you know, not the best results. As they will, of course, not spend too much into this round, just a shorty on Zan.
And a little triple stack over towards A, which doesn't really find success. The defense quick to rotate away and try to get a prediction here on towards this B main play. Although, Fusion not really necessarily committing to this. Looking to kind of flex their muscles around with these extra weapons. See if they can stretch 00Nation out a bit, who looks like they will fully commit to this 4-man stack on B.
Indeed, just gambling, and you kind of have to in a situation like this when you really have nothing invested. You really don't have the resources to pull off much other than hoping that you can spring a trap with some type of stack or gamble push. They've chosen to anchor themselves on this B site and hope for the best. We are seeing Fusion, as you said, kind of spread the map just a touch, try to, you know, poke a little bit at A main, maybe try to grab an orb, maybe try to, you know, keep defense interested here as best they can. As we are going to see Xion, though, pushing off of Catwalk, does spot one through the B-Link area, but he's been spotted as well. He's taken a lot of damage, and now he's going to get pinched by the rest of Fusion.
Should be an easy isolation here, but this is taking a lot of time. 35 seconds on the clock, and now all of a sudden Fusion have to make a decision on where they want to go, and they will choose to move in towards A with that pick onto the lurking Xion Killjoy. So, 00Nation with that read, make a play to try to retake through mid. Meathead already here waiting for a nice opening headshot into Bartine. Spike gets planted. Fusion in a nice position to just lock in from the site with the help of the barrier orb nearby. Shorty's out, but Meathead once again says no way, no how. Right clicks from BZN, also going to find absolutely nothing, and a flawless round for Fusion in the second.
Yeah, really well done. Nice to see them have a hot start, but, you know, Shiv, my main concern is what's going to happen once we get into the rifle rounds, because when I was watching Fusion play against 9Z in the Latin American, you know, finals for the #1 seed spot, and just kind of in general, well, they like to play a faster paced play style, which is totally fine. You know, a lot of teams make it work. For me, sometimes they just look a little bit disjointed. You know, they just seem like the spacing isn't as efficient as some of the other teams that like to play the aggressive style. Sometimes they can spread themselves thin in defaults if they do slow it down and kind of get picked apart. And so what I want to see is a little bit more fluency in their team play in this matchup. Obviously, loser of this moves to the lower bracket. Winner moves on to play Union. So a lot of weight on this game. And while Fusion's had a hot start going up 2-0, again, I need to see them play some more tidy Valorant, I guess is the best way to put it, than what I'm used to seeing in the past.
That's a good point. It looks like 00Nation are having enough with this opening aggression. It's a very early fragment into the choke point at A long, and it does land for a bit of damage, followed up by a knife. So it stops Fusion from being able to hit early, which they did look pretty primed to do, at least give A test. But now we're down to 60 seconds on the clock, and the Spike is making a full rotation over to the direction of Theory, who hasn't really gotten a lot of looks over towards what's happening at B. So a lot of question marks here for Fusion before they make an inevitable decision.
Yeah, they're kind of just slowing it down, establishing some mid control. They have that poison orb that's kind of blocking vision middle, trying to use that to maybe threaten Cat into tree position, but obviously that's being watched by BZN, and he knows that no one's really committed that direction. Now we're starting to see them maybe poke a little bit towards mid and market. They're going to have to trap, though, on that alarm bot, so it's going to alert them to what's going on as they're going to start breaking their way through the market position. Xion and company back up into the back of the site, waiting for the rotation through back halls.
Barrier orb and the toxic screen gonna block things off, and the orbital strike earned very early will drop right on top of Heartzine's head. Oh, not a great start here defensively for 00Nation. Now into a 3v5 Fusion with a significant amount of control, and 00Nation are gonna back off of this and just save the weapons. What a start this has been for Fusion.
Yeah, I mean, they are looking a lot neater than I'm used to seeing as far as how they're implementing these tactics. Like, they seem to be a lot more on the same page, and maybe that's just coming down to having more experience now in the studio environment and kind of starting to settle into the tournament after a couple of rough rides in the group stage. But, I mean, that was just a brilliant combination of utility. A great little feint kind of towards the middle and A. They burst through markets so rapidly. Orbital strike to clear out the back of the B site. and they do wonders there to not only win the round, but only lose one player in the process. So up 3-0, convert the bonus, and 00Nation's in a little bit of a tough spot here. Look at this low buy.
That was a Bulldog and a Guardian upgraded to rifles as well. So the economy is extra healthy all of a sudden for Fusion. And for when you look at this matchup in particular, the pistol was an interesting one because the stat line for Fusion was so poor. They'd only won a single pistol to this point, but they are really bad at eco advantages. They've only are 5 for 12 when it comes down to when they actually hold an economic advantage. Obviously, much better to start here so far, and now you've got extra weapons into another round where you expect to have advantages. This has been flawless for Fusion, and I think at a certain point, we need to start looking back to the map selections and say, what was 00Nation thinking?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's tough for 00Nation in the ban phase because obviously they also have an 0-3 record on bind. They don't really play split, and then Ascent has been weaker for them as well. I mean, really the only maps that they actually play quite a lot are Fracture Pearl and Lotus, right? So I think that that's just a sign of their map pool maybe being a little too shallow, and I think that's what really hurts them and maybe some of the pick ban phases that we're going to see throughout this tournament. As again, just really not a whole lot to work with in this round, as we already discussed. It's just Shiana with that Guardian, but outside of that, it's upgraded pistols and the Shorty at best for Zand. So you are going to see again, Fusion is playing a lot more of a slow, methodical play style than I'm used to. This is definitely a pretty big pivot to the style that they're known for in LATAM.
And it's kind of surprising to see it in combination of having a Neon and a Viper, where you expect to be able to break down and kind of delineate space on site immediately. So kind of keeping themselves covered, keeping 00Nation guessing. Little hops here from Martine. Careful, might lose your head. Stuns are out across the board. There's the fast line. Birdie right on in towards site. Tries to slide forward. Martine was actually stunned up, so he's an easy pickup for Adu. And as BZN up top can really only do so much, he's going to try to delay, but spam fire from deep on arches will keep him from peeking as the spike gets planted. 5v4. Adu's got one more flash to just hold on to until the retake starts to come out. He will send that just to kind of, again, delay a little bit longer while the recon bolt was spent. Meathead, oh boy. He's got a really easy one here, you would think, versus Zand, who does smoke out and play a little while longer, Shorty in hand. Artzine making things interesting, though, gets 2. But still, how do you break through the rest of this? And the answer is you're simply not going to, not with the health pool that Artzine has. And it's going to be a 4-0 start for Fusion, only dropping 2 in the process. Make it 3. Just kidding.
Yeah, Artzine actually is making this a little bit costly, but we'll get stopped there by Meathead. And so Fusion going to go up 4-0 again. One of the big things I'm noticing is just a slower, more methodical playstyle. As you said, maybe not something you'd expect just based on their history and the type of style they like to play generally, but also just looking at the composition. When you have a Neon, you definitely expect a little bit more of a divey playstyle. But I think what this double controller setup that they're running is allowing them to do is be able to throw like feint and still have that utility available for the late execute. You know, when you have that additional controller utility to block off key angles. And it's kind of letting them spread the map a little bit more. But the big thing that I'm liking about this spread is in the past when I've seen Fusion, you know, slow it down and play a default, sometimes they get a little spread too thin and they get a little bit disjointed, and maybe you start seeing people go for like hero plays or peaks that don't really have like a nice follow-up to it. You know, and I think what we're seeing here with Fusion is you're not seeing Verdi just off an island on his own or something like that. You're seeing more supporting utility being involved in the attacks. You're seeing the spacing being a lot more fine-tuned. And so I'm really liking this evolution because I'll be honest with you, man, when I was doing my research for this tournament and I was watching Fusion play and LATAM, and in particular when they had to play up against 9Z in the LATAM finals, they just look so sloppy. And I thought, man, they're going to run some real trouble against some of these teams from Brazil and North America who are a lot more fine-tuned when you look at from the eye test, I guess you could say. But what I'm seeing today is a much more precision Fusion, I guess you could say.
Would you call it like calculated aggression? Because it feels like they're trying their options before committing. Whereas maybe in the past, it was kind of like this is our play, we're going to run it no matter what. I mean, there could be something in the mix of that. It feels kind of like they're really kind of measuring out where everyone is before they're full committing, which is something that we often see for teams like M80, for instance, who are kind of the categorical aggressive team for North America.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, and that's the thing. Again, aggressive play styles are fine, but you have to make sure that everyone's on the same page. You have to make sure the spacing is good, that you're trading efficiently, and that you are supporting those aggressive pushes with good layered utility. And that's something that Fusion had lacked a little bit in the past. But today, I'm not detecting that at all. You know, obviously it's still early. You know, we got to be a little bit careful here. It's only the second buy from 00Nation. Now they finally have an operator, and Artsine has his Odin on the Sova. So, I mean, they have a lot more resources to work with here. They're looking to get really aggressive on A main, as well as pushing out B with the drones. So they're being very proactive. But, oh, no, it's all gone wrong as Bartine's been caught by Birdie.
Fragment is just used for BCN to get out. Op is in play, though, for Zant. Just trying to watch over the top to make sure nobody enters. And, well, to be fair, Fusion have not fully committed through this.
Oh, boy.
Artsine getting aggressive. He's got some timing here. But the problem is nobody from Fusion's in the way. Oh, the check from Theory. What? Artsine didn't see him. Eyes must have been going somewhere else. Xian also playing aggressive through mid, gets completely shut down. And 00Nation after the timeout look almost more lost than they were beforehand.
Oh, and Zan misses a shot, so they're able to get the market cross, and it's a wide open B site. No one was playing the backside. Great use of utility here at the back halls to keep BZN at bay to make sure that spike can go down, and they are in a very tough 2-on-4 retake. One of those players on the retake is an op as well to make things even worse in these close range situations.
Well, BZN has to try to sniff something out. Not going to work out in any form. Zandon the exit, just looking to keep the operator. Shot even misses, and now he's in trouble. He's got a barrier blocking him. Two players pushing forward, and Fusion's getting everything and more. Have your cake and eat it too. Holy smokes, 5-0 up our Fusion.
I mean, the only way I would want the cake is if I could eat it, to be fair.
Well, true, yeah.
I've always hated that expression, to be honest with you, but I know, I'm confusing something that's very easy, but you know, that's kind of my forte. Man, Zan having a little bit of a tough start here, and I'm kind of surprised because obviously he's the top, you know, player in almost every metric on this team. A team that was #2 in Brazil. He did very well throughout the Brazil splits when it came to things like ACS, ADR, kills per round. So far in Ascension, he's #2 in ACS and first kills per round, and #4 in ADR and KPR, but he is off to a slow start here.
I'll say. And now Artsine hunting for something. Blind, Hunter's Fury connects for the first onto Adu, but nothing else will land. 00Nation will get a little bit of map control with that, thanks to the clearance through A main, but the problem is Theory's already making headway over towards B. Full stack here, Spike is also a part of this play. VCT down low, looking for something over the top of the barrier or boost, not gonna work out. It's Fusion for the first 2 eliminations, and all of a sudden 00Nation are once again just hoping and praying that Artsine can find something with this Sheriff. He does get one, but nothing more, and Fusion are all of a sudden speed running this offensive half.
They really are. This is awesome games done quick. This ain't an Ascension, apparently, as, I mean, Darker just pulling so much attention with the old school Sage boost through the windows of B main, but what was excellent about it was it allowed Verdi to slip through sidewalk. So much attention was on Darker's boost that Verdi's able to kind of creep in and find his own openings. And now Fusion's up 6-0. 00Nation, again, we talked about how they had a rough record on Ascent coming into this tournament, 0-3, but again, it was hard to know just how bad it was considering they played the same team every single time they lost. It was always against Union. And so we were thinking, maybe it's better than we think, but right now they are struggling.
Little tempo change here, though, for Fusion. Partine gets the opener, but the follow-up is perfect for Adu. BZN also has to commit to staying on top of site. Little reveal into Adu. The pre-fire, though, is just not landing. So the null command gets shut down. BZN will be sent to his grave. Artsine trying to rotate over, has done well to get one and get the Odin into play, but this is still a very difficult 2v3. Although made a little bit easier by Xian, and now it's just down to 1. But Theory slipped the net. And oh boy, Theory may find himself on top of this proactive play. The problem is there is turret down, finds the first though, and Artsine snaps just in the nick of time because boy did Theory have him down in numbers.
Man, the timing that he hit, getting past the Molotov inside the smoke at Heaven to actually make that cross in the site and find the double kill was the world. Obviously, Bartine able to get the initial one here for the boost position. Adu, though, pretty efficient trading here. He gets a couple of entries. It's looking pretty good, but it's that timing from Xian to step out as soon as that Molotov deploys forward can do damage. Obviously, the turret doing its job there to pick up on Theory, and so finally, 00Nation have been able to put a round on the board.
Out of charges.
It was kind of underneath special circumstances with the boost and with kind of that crazy timing, so is that repeatable is the question.
Well, they do have a opportunity to possibly get a lockdown in play, and it looks like they will use that for retake here at B, as Fusion will get free entry to the B site. Problem is, there's also a Viper's Pit that could be in a really solid spot, actually, to avoid the majority of this Killjoy lockdown.
Oh, baby.
Also spent, oh my goodness, BCN gets sent to the 3rd floor, and how about Meated trying to get more for his work. Only takes down the 1, though. Does put a little bit of pressure onto 00Nation on this retake attempt. Still lockdown is up and set yet Darker. Playing off a little bit of elevation with the barrier orb once again. There's the lockdown. Prediction from Zan, not gonna work out. Darker possibly looking for more and almost finds it. Xian, though, does deny. But again, this Viper's Pit, you can still stay in this outside the bounds of the lockdown. 2v2 situation. Xian, Bartine make their way on. Birdie, Theory, gonna have to check this. Fast lane falls, holding it. Oh, but no. Theory and Birdie will find the kills, and Fusion will stay dominant on the offensive side.
Yeah, they did this such a great job in the post plant, controlling B main for so long, delaying that lockdown from being able to put into play. And by the time it was put into play, the numbers had already been dwindled so much. Darker able to, again, play on top of his wall. Obviously, Mite getting that first kill on the BZN, getting the read on the rest of the B flank. That way his teammates could respond, and Darker did very well. And able to come in here and grab these final 2 and get the round on the board. So the success of 00Nation short-lived, as Fusion will continue to build a massive lead. And I mean, what? 00's had like 2 full buys this entire game so far?
Yeah.
I mean, goodness gracious, man. This has been dominant. Again, it's just so odd to see Fusion play this way. This is so different. But it's refreshing at the same time. I think it's catching 00 off guard. I don't think we're expecting this type of pace.
Well, they got to figure it out and figure it out quick. Because at the moment, this has been just as dominant as we've seen throughout the entirety of Ascension to this point. Which is surprising to say, considering that neither of these two teams had played Ascent yet.
It's also worth noting that Fusion comes into this series being 0-7 in maps in the last 3 matches they've played. They got 3-0'd by 9Z in the LATAM finals, and obviously lost all 4 of their maps in the group stage. So very important, I think, for them to come, you know, on their best foot to open up this series, and boy, have they. A stack here for 00Nation, going to be completed by these 2 players rotating through the back halls, and as soon as that happens, Fusion is looking to pivot through mid into potentially a B split here.
Xian nearby, going to play forward into this sky smoke. And actually stays relatively safe throughout that. The problem is the hit is not actually over towards me. They're bouncing this right back over towards the doorways and through tree. It's not good for the first. Looking for more of this than the Stinger, but only gets the first one. Now it has to be pistols. Will they lock in? Artzin does well to get one. Time becoming an issue. Bartine, can he stop the plant? Oh, it doesn't matter. He will fall anyways before the clock became too much of an issue. And Fusion will go 8-1 up.
Dude, that was actually a little bit tense, though. That was scary. I mean, that was lone time on the clock, and they ran into the stack. If that shorty lands and gets the frag on the breach, it was able to tuck back in and stay alive. Spike doesn't get planted. You know, that could be a very different round. So, obviously, Fusion wins it. Obviously, you know, they're still on a great roll, but that one was a little bit scarier than they were probably hoping for. But obviously, their mood unaffected. They're still feeling great, and why wouldn't you? You're up right now massively in this first half. Another timeout already.
This has got to be their final.
Yep.
Wow. 2 timeouts in 9 rounds.
And remember, last time it didn't help.
It didn't help at all. I mean, holy smokes. I mean, you could see it right there. I mean, it's just like scratching heads pretty much at this point. Like, what do we do? And the thing about it is, if you were coming out and expecting Fusion to play quick and they're not, you would have to think that you're just going to go back to playing like a normal default. But 00Nation haven't even shown us that yet. I mean, there's been absolutely nothing going well here for 00Nation, and whatever they're talking about here has to also extend into their second half.
Yeah.
You know, are we going to continue? Did we anticipate them playing quick, and that's our whole game plan? Do we now have to just completely build a new playbook right here, right now? Because it almost feels that they have to.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things that I think 00 has done well in some of these rounds, despite being down so low, is when they've been proactive on the periphery of the map and actually use that to get a little bit of intel. It's just sometimes they've overextended past that point and gotten caught, and then they lose man advantage, and then Fusion can kind of pounce. So they need to be able to kind of temper their proactiveness. Also, I think it just hurts that Xan is not really been able to have the operator very much this half to try to dictate the pace of any of these rounds.
Just once.
Yep.
Missed 3 shots on that round.
Mm-hmm. So
now
that's been killer.
Yep. So how do you move around that? Aldrone trying to be used to clear out B main. Doesn't really scout out too much. Once again, Fusion. I mean, I'm telling you, if you did not watch much of Fusion's games, this is very, very different. And believe you me, friends.
Yeah, my notes are pretty much out the window at this point.
I was going to say, this is catching everybody off
And I mean,
guard.
I watched a fair amount of Fusion VODs stepping up into this, and I am just not seeing the same team, which, I mean, is for the better, obviously, when you look at the amount of rounds that they have. But, man, it's just refreshing as well to see them, you know, struggle, be able to kind of calm back down now that we're in the playoffs, you know, make an adjustment in their composition on this map, and just come into it more fine-tuned, more on the same page. The spacing and timing has been incredible here. Their trading efficiency has been at an all-time high. As once again, they're kind of playing this like tempered mid-control. And, I mean, it'll be interesting to see if Zan can get anything from this. He's kind of on an island, though.
Oh, only gets the first. I was going to say the alarm bot isn't here, so Zan has to stay over through mid. Follow-up kill from Theory, good through main. And now Bardeen, who does actually teleport in to try to help defense. And oh boy, he's not in a good spot here. The fragment pushes him into a corner. The fault line also in play, but BZN holds his ground, finds the first. Gonna have to essentially do a 1v3, gets the second. Could he get 3? No! Adu shuts it down. Does give an opportunity though for Xion in this 1v2, but everything resets as the spike is planted.
Yeah, and it looks like the attacking side is going to be able to get into post-plant positions together. You can see that Adu is trying to move closer to Meathead so that they can actually play together and not get isolated into 1v1s. They're trying to play a little bit of bait and switch. They now know that Xion is coming through market, and they will face him together, and that is just a chef's kiss, man. Fusion are doing so well playing together as a unit. That utility layering on the B site that constantly disturbed the players in the back of the B site was so well done. They never let the defense get settled into B. Also, I mean, they catch Zand on an island. A 1-for-1 trade's not good enough if you're in that position.
Not at all. Yeah.
It just opens the floodgates onto a B split through market.
Ooh.
And then Artzine just gets caught in awkward space, and then again the utility. I mean, I'm impressed BZN even got what he got out of that situation, considering him getting hit by fault lines and other utility that forced him to one side of the back. But yeah, Fusion, beautiful attacking side so far.
Well, we're in round 11, 9-1 the tally. Zand is going to pull out the knives here. What will be another eco stinger for BZN. Everybody else on Sheriffs with the possible inclusion of a Hunter's Fury for Artzine, but man, Darker's got to be sitting here thinking, I may not need to ever use a res. Like, they are dominating so much that barely anyone's dropping into resable positions.
Right.
And once again, Fusion's going to kind of just pump the brakes and let 00Nation maybe make a mistake first.
Yeah, 0-0 getting a little bit proactive with the one-way smoke over at A main, but as that fades away, they will kind of just withdraw back into the site. In the meantime, you are seeing Meathead and company put a little bit of pressure at main, and oh, Meathead, that is disgusting, sir. Tip of the hat to you, man. That was ferocious.
The only one who got tagged was Darker. He took a knife to the body and will heal up the majority of it.
Oh, Verdi!
And now all of a sudden, Verdi just lurks into A. I mean, 00Nation are lost.
In the sauce.
Xion hoping for something, not gonna work. It's Theory who sends a headshot the opposite way. And just to make matters worse, oh my goodness. The flash fragment doesn't get played. The barrier orb puts him into the aftershock. And now Artzine is just trying to keep his life. Another flawless for Fusion. What?
Last round before the switch.
You know, I'm not gonna lie to you. Shit, I'm gonna be real.
Never do. Never lie to me.
Okay. I walked into today and I was like, you know what? There's a chance that these games might be kind of quick. Just based on how Fusion was playing in groups, based on how 00Nation's been playing groups, and just kind of seeing how they were playing throughout their regional splits. You know, obviously I didn't know the map pool when I was thinking these thoughts, but like just based on the history of these two teams, you know, I was thinking, this could be a problem. This could be a quick day at the office. And man, it might still be, but in the opposite direction of what was anticipated. Fusion, again, really looking to pounce as they'll take a timeout. Not sure why. Probably not really needed. Maybe just kind of letting 00Nation stew on that one a little bit.
Yeah, naturally. Why not?
Maybe calming everyone down as well. I'm sure they're amped up after building such a big lead, and I'm sure the coach maybe just wants to kind of make sure that everyone is still, you know, keeping their wits about them, staying disciplined, you know, sticking to the game plan and not, you know, getting a little bit too crazy just because they're, you know, up so much. Sometimes it is nice just to take a moment to kind of have everyone kind of settle down a little bit, focus up.
The thing about it, I know that we didn't really get much time to hear the desk's thought over the map pick outside of the fact that they were all surprised. Like 00Nation didn't just not pick some of their best maps. They banned out Haven, which is one of their most played overall maps. Bind was vetoed out, which again was not bad news at all when it comes to 00Nation. So you had Fracture, Pearl, and Lotus all available, and they went with Ascent? So like, it just feels like whatever the game plan was in terms of trying to match up against this Fusion team is just not working out, as now we have a little bit of aggression coming out from the side of Fusion. Orbital Strike sets things off, but actually it's Zan mid-map. Oh, and look at this push through for the defense. BZN gonna take 2 with them. Hunter's Fury also used in support, and well, no way that Theory gets out of this. Starker will also drop, so we'll end the half 10-2, but it feels like barely a silver lining starts to get drawn when the scoreline's that significant.
In fact, the question, where the heck has that been all half? Just, we didn't see anything remotely close to that from 00Nation any other point in time in the half, other than to the final round when, you know, I'm not gonna say it's too late, but it's pretty close to being too late considering the scoreboard. I mean, obviously economy was a part of it, right? I mean, that's only the second time Zan could even afford an operator the entire half, it felt like. But I would have liked to see some more of that boldness at mid-aggression earlier in the half. Either way,
I agree with you.
Obviously a must-need pistol for 0-0 just for them to survive.
And statistically speaking, this should be a pistol that you look forward to if you're 00Nation, because Fusion has not, they've actually been significantly the worst pistol team through Ascension so far. That obviously did not bode true in the first round.
Go, go, go!
But Verdi, wow, just right through B. I mean, that's not even through B main, that is through B everything. He's in the defensive spawn. Gets the first pick. Still a chance for this bite to get planted. Fusion looking to not fully surround or envelop the site. It's mostly going to be just a hit from the front and from tree. And Zan is already up top. As soon as this dark cover fades, he will be in a little bit of trouble, but instead opts to just back away. Now time starts to become a bit of an issue. No moves yet from Fusion on this retake. And still, they're worried about a possible flank through mid. A late check from Meated. And now all of a sudden, this hit has to find success immediately, and it's simply not. 00Nation looking good on this post plant setup. Here comes the last attempt for Fusion. A lot of it cut down before it can even get started. Still have a 2v2, now a 2v1. Hold on a second, Zan's by himself. Spike gonna be defused, or at least attempted to, but Zan drops on in to get the Zeddy clutch for the 1v2.
And Zan now starting to pop off a little bit, and that's good news for 00Nation fans because he has been their top player all year long. It has been one of the best players in Ascension thus far through the group stage as well. Top 5 in most metrics. Had a slow start to the day. I think he was 1-5 at one point, if I'm not mistaken, but had a huge final round of the first half and then comes up big here in a 1v2 clutch on the pistol round to start reeling this one back in just a smidge. Now, they're still well outside of putting stress on Fusion, but at the very least they checked off the first box and survived long enough to try to put themselves in striking distance.
Counter stunts coming out here for 00Nation while Fusion continues to force the square peg into the round hole through B main. Doesn't work out. Verdi still holding with the frenzy up close and personal. A little bit of assistance from Darker on the way, and a little bit of a mid check here from Theory, so some knowledge that Fusion will know where exactly this 00Nation stack is, but the problem is they're just not winning the gunfights they need.
Yeah, weapon advantage serving 00Nation well into this round. That was kind of the last chance to try to put a halt to it from Darker. Theory does get one, and I mean, to be fair, pretty expensive round for 00Nation considering their advantage. That means that this bonus that they're going to come into is going to be a little bit lacking as far as what they were hoping for as Fusion gets their full buy up. Obviously, you know, I honestly feel like this is a must-win bonus for 00Nation, which is not a situation you like to be put in, especially considering the fact that they're having to, like, repurchase a Stinger because they lost 3 players on that round. So it's not an ideal spot by any means. Again, 00Nation also known for their fast-paced gameplay, and I would say they're, in general, usually a bit more of an organized, aggressive team, but I was impressed by what Fusion did in the first half, so we'll see.
Very early and deep null command that barely affects anybody on the site itself here for Fusion. Play through tree, still working out, and Martin gets caught in the teleport. Theory up top will put it over the finish line. And boy, I'm sat there with a raised eyebrow with the null command in the first place. Doesn't affect really anybody on the site itself. Maybe trying to predict that Fusion was going to play up and towards A Archway. That wasn't the case, and Fusion clean up a very easy third round of the half.
Yeah, shut down pretty quickly. Again, 00Nation is a team that also likes to bring that pace, and unlike the tempo change we saw from Fusion, I don't think we'll see that from 00Nation. I feel like they're going to want to keep up their normal aggressive play style to try to fight this one back as quickly as possible. That was a pretty complete shutdown, but there was their bonus. Now they're on to the full buy. Looking to maybe poke at middle a little bit early here with Zan.
Well, it's more than poke here, Dust. They're in it.
True.
And maybe even looking for more. Spike is dropped just behind the backside of Shiana at B main. But this double hit is starting to get some legs through mid. Poison Cloud will kind of be a one-way here to try to block off any further crosses, and Fusion will technically hold this setup, but there are some considerations for the future.
I like that 0-0 poke mid that fast and that aggressively. It forces the defense to respect the backside. You can see it there with the Adu having to watch their spawns freeze up some gaps, but Darker boosted, finds Artzine, man advantage, and now Adu finds Zan. That's the tip of the spear, blunted. And this is looking dangerous.
That was supposed to just be a lurk, essentially. So now Mita through the sky smoke. So well done, timing-wise. BZN is just hoping he can do the same thing, and to be fair, he will. But this is a 2v5 now to a 2v4 with only 30 seconds on the clock. Fragment will block off the defensive cross. But the fault line also kind of keeps BZN in play, so it's 6 of one, half a dozen of another. And now Theory down low, looking for the final 2 to tally. Martine keeps it interesting, then maybe it's even more interesting. This would be a 1v4 for him. He does have the spike to play with, and an isolated 1v1 on site. The problem is Theory's just playing for sound. Oh, he's got elephant ears. Oh, that doesn't matter! Martine gets the shot off! Now it's just down to the 1v1. Verdi throws out the relay bolt. It will land, and that will make life very easy. Fusion go to map point.
Indeed they do. A little bit scary though. I feel like they played that one, they gave too many 1v1s away. I wish they would have slowed it down a little bit and just played together. You know, allow the plan if you need to, rather than come together and retake as a unit with numbers advantage. But luckily Verdi able to catch a nice timing there. I mean, the guy's pinned up against the clock essentially to have to commit the plant, which allows him to lay the relay bolts down, stun that last opponent, not really allow him to recover after he gets off the spike. Makes the 1v1 pretty easy for Verdi, all things considered.
10 seconds left.
And at the end of the day, map point is map point. Especially with this much of a gap already created, they have plenty of chances to close this one down in regulation.
100%. Wow.
This is some of the best Fusion we've ever seen, honestly.
It is, flat out. It's the best Fusion we've ever seen. You don't have to say some of the... This is the best Fusion we've seen in Ascension throughout their final portions of
I'm saying not just Ascension,
season.
I'm talking in general for the year. This is some of the best I've seen in Fusion. Because Fusion was an interesting team because, like, while they did well within Latin America North, it was kind of interesting because they essentially played the same team so often. Like, every playoff match they played in Split 1 and Split 2 of VCL was against 6 Karma. I mean, they played 6 Karma so many times, it's unbelievable. And so you have a situation where you have a team that doesn't get a whole lot of diversity in the opposition they get to face in official matches. Then they got destroyed by 9Z in the LATAM finals, and they just started so slow here in Ascension. And just that combination of factors really made it hard to believe in what Fusion would be capable of. But any type of doubt you may have had, you're going to have to start reconsidering now based on what we're seeing so far on this map.
Yeah, absolutely. It continues to be the case that the map pool doesn't get much worse for them, so... Wow. Launching smoke. What a turnaround this could be. Mita, feeling the pressure. Cues up the orbital strike, and all you need is the information here that this is going to be stacking through market. There's the flash, and with that also the fault line. It does split this offense up. Adu steps in, he finds one, Mita for the back, gets another, and this breakdown from Fusion is near flawless, but still the numbers decent here for 00Nation, made even better as BZN cleans up one through mid, but Verdi through the backside of defensive spawn. Takes down 2, spike down, BZN into the 1v1. Verdi has gotten on towards staircase and will get it done himself. It's technically a 1v3 from Verdi and Fusion. Woo-wee, where did that come from? they're looking tasty, brother. Super tasty.
Yeah, again, very different composition of what we're used to seeing in the past from them, a very different play style than we're used to seeing in the past from them. Definitely a little bit slower and more methodical, a little bit more composed. When they were aggressive, it looked a lot more cohesive in comparison to some of their aggressive play in the past. It looked a little bit more loose and scrappy. It just seemed like they were, I think the best way to sum it up is just more refined and more diverse in just how they were willing to approach the server. Fantastic stuff, man. I mean, wow. I'm shocked, but in a good way, and very impressed.
It's unbelievable stuff, and sometimes you throw a small fish into a big pond and they find a way to grow into the environment they find themselves in. It may have taken a little longer than Fusion would have liked, but so far, so good. We have the desk standing by to break everything down. But boy, I'll tell you, this is one of those things, Dust, that we're happy to see it. And I think our initial reactions will likely be the same as the desk, as we have Sierra and the rest of the crew standing by to give us their thoughts.
Thanks so much, you two. Wow, honestly, what a performance coming out from Fusion to start off the day. Maybe the group stage wasn't necessarily the greatest here, but hey, they're showing up when they need to, at least on this first map.
You know, they gave me a run for my money. I said pregame, I don't know about this comp, and I think a lot of us were thinking that when we saw it, but wow, they really started off incredibly strong. And in fact, the last time that they played Ascent was a while ago. That's why I was super shocked on the map picks. The last time they played it was in May, and they had a totally different comp. They had 4 different agents. So seeing this composition, and it's just really exciting. I mean, there was a few different rounds that I saw from Birdie, incredibly well on the Neon. He wasn't too fast on his pacing. His pacing was actually really well as we saw. And round 3 in particular, I saw there was a really cool combo. The Brim ulted on back of B site, comboed with the Sage slow orbs, trapping 2 people in the back of the site. This was just one of many cool rounds that I saw.
One of the things I liked about the way Fusion was playing, a lot of times when you see a comp with the Neon implemented, it's high speed all the time. It's just breakneck. The idea is breaking timing as much as possible. And while we did get that, it was very rare. They actually played relatively restrained, especially for a team that we kind of looked at coming into this as a team that maybe played a little bit more loose, a little bit less rigid. They were playing collectively a little bit more. A lot of reading their opponent. If you watch them play, there was a couple rounds that came down to the last 20 seconds before they gained site control. I applaud Fusion for having that level of restraint, given that this composition generally lends itself to that much faster pace of play. And they did such a great job basically neutralizing any significant threats coming in from 00Nation. Now, I also want to point out, to be fair, that 00Nation has only played this map 3 times, and it was against the same opponent all 3 times. They played against the Union, they lost 13-5, 13-6, 13-9. It's, you know, maybe there's a world where that helps them. You know, there's not as much out there, so you can run off the tape. But at the same point in time, that what you've seen from Fusion, you're not going to be able to take what they did today and really apply what you would have learned from VODs, because it's a completely different comp, like you said. 1 agent overlap, just Viper. Everything else has been swapped out. And this is what Fusion did yesterday as well. We were applauding for them, them for coming into the desk segment, being a little bit more experimental, being willing to change up what is considered quote-unquote meta.
Yeah, 00Nation really did try their best. I mean, once we swapped over to the second side, Zand had a really good clutch, a 1v2 on the pistol, which was something that they needed. They needed that to stay into the game. And it wasn't until round 7 when they won their first round on defense side.
If you want the epitome of pain, go back towards the tail end of the game. You've got BZN sitting in a smoking tree, and he goes to underhand a flash through the smoke. Sage wall comes down as the flash goes over, and then Aftershock comes through from Breach. He dies to the Aftershock. He can't get away. I'm like, man, what a comedy of errors. It's like an unfortunate series of events that results in his death. That's just kind of how the game played out. It felt like everything went right for Fusion. And when 00Nation would try to mix things up, they would come up just a little bit short.
I mean, Fusion definitely had the confidence coming into today and in today's match, and I could definitely see why now. This was definitely a refreshed look, one that was definitely needed. The question then, do we think of going on forward? Because this was definitely the comfort zone. They looked so good. Are we then going to see 00Nation just, oh, wait a second, like, all right, this is Bach our chance to kind of step things up going for the other dude, because we've gotten to see great things from them before.
Well, keep in mind the next map is a map that they've actually played quite a bit. So even though it is their opponent's pick, they're going to feel very comfortable on that map. And starting off the way they just did, they're in the heads of 00Nation, 100%. So Fusion's definitely got this one. They've got the advantage mentally right now. And now I'm sure 00Nation's like, do we even know what to expect on the next map? I have no idea what they're going to do.
I never know what to expect when Fusion comes out here to play. So I'm excited to see how Fracture is going to be going. We're going to take a short break, get that queued up, get your snacks. Be right back.